cool.
Hi, Dr. Callie. So I'm Missy, and that's Tyler, and that's Kevin.
Yeah.
And we are going to be presenting the executive order today for our group discussion and our group project.
And the executive order we're going to be doing is executive order on improving free inquiry, transparency, and accountability at colleges and universities. It was sort of publicized as this thing that was meant to make sure that colleges gave all students the right to free speech, as well as set plans to try to make colleges more affordable and student loans less aggressive.
And I think we should also just say just a couple words, if one of y'all want to talk about like the executive order, the purpose of it, like the statement before an executive order.
Oh, yeah, I have the purpose right here. The purpose of this order is to enhance the quality of post-secondary education by making it more affordable, more transparent, and more accountable. Institutions of higher education should be accountable both for student outcomes and for student life on campus. That was the general purpose that was described here.
You guys want to just show a little bit of the beginning of his speech, and then we can start there. Okay.
Yeah.
So show you a little portion. Here we go.
Welcome so many impressive young Americans to the White House. This is a very exciting day. What we're doing is very important. And we're here to take historic action to defend American students and American values. They've been under siege. In a few moments, I will be signing an executive order to protect free speech on college campuses. Just the thought of it sounds good. We're grateful. We're very grateful to be joined today by Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos. Betsy, where are you, Betsy? Hi, Betsy. And Secretary of Health and Human Services, who's done a really great job. We have prescription drugs prices coming down, first time in 51 years. So Alex Azo, thank you very much, Alex. Most importantly, let me thank all of the college students and recent graduates here with me on stage, incredible young people. These courageous Americans have stood up for the forces of political indoctrinations, and they really stood up to like very few people have been able to, censorship and coercion. You refuse to be silenced by powerful institutions and closed-minded critics, of which there are many. You face down intimidation, pressure, and abuse. You did it because you love your country and you believe in truth, justice, and freedom. And I want to thank you all, everybody in the room, including a lot of folks in the audience, Charlie, a lot of folks. You've fought bravely for your rights, and now you have a president who is also fighting for you. I'm with you all the way.
Okay, we can pause. So, unless you guys think we should see more, but
No. I think this is actually a perfect stopping point. And the reason why I think so is because, without getting too much detail into the later end of the speech, this actually does a very good job of covering a lot of what this kind of speech should cover. It describes the purpose, describes a problem, is a call to unity, a recognition of those who have assisted in like recognizing and help solving this problem. Like from the very beginning, this part of the speech is done very well, and I think serves the purpose that it is meant to like as far as establishing what this executive order is. This genre of speech so far is going well, and it's not until later where things kind of start to yeah.
So far, I love the PSA that he throws in about the prescription drugs. Like, that has nothing to do with anything. That's hilarious, and it just shows he knows who's in the audience, and I think, you know, Trump in general always can play to his audiences very well.
And once again, that sort of, you know, harkens back to the point of, you know, it sort of bolsters your constituents', you know, faith in you. And so that's why, you know, pointing out these small things, or, you know, talking about how freedom of speech has been, you know, disturbed in college campuses, is sort of directly plays to that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, the next piece of this is actually, I think we should show a little bit of one of the three students who speaks out and who is there. Obviously, there's more students than just three on the stage, but he does specifically, just to fast forward for whoever's watching, he specifically gets three young women, to speak on behalf of what their claim is. And so the three of us decided we would choose Polly. We're going to show you what she has to say about her claim.
In technical college last year, Polly was handing out homemade Valentine's Day cards with messages such as, "You are special and Jesus loves you." College officials stopped her and told her that she would be restricted to so-called free speech zone, because some people might find her cards offensive. I don't. In fact, Polly, give me some, I'll send them around to my friends. Polly, please say a few words, Polly. Polly, thank you.
So freedom of speech is near and dear to my heart. My mother told me while she was homeschooling me that I would need to know what my First Amendment rights were, because someday they would be violated and I would have to stand up for them. So I'm carrying on her legacy of handing out these little Valentines, encouraging people to know that they are loved and cared for. And within 15 minutes of setting foot on my campus this past year, I was told that I was soliciting and disrupting the learning environment, and that it would not be tolerated, and that I would have to stop handing out my Valentines. And I contacted some friends of mine, and they sent me to Will to have legal counsel, because this wasn't the first time the school had done it to me. They had stopped me a few months after my mom died, and told me that I was not allowed to do it then. So I went through months of trying to get them to change this policy that they were enforcing. And they told me that they would do it. Well, that was 5 years ago. So now it was time to take action and make them follow through with what they were telling me that they were going to do, trying to shut me up. I'm just one of many students that are out there that universities and schools are trying to shut down, sweep it under the rug, and make them be quiet. And I told them, I'm not going to be quiet this time. I'm going to talk to anyone and everyone I can about our freedom of speech in this country, because it's really the core of America's freedom. And without freedom of speech, we don't have America anymore. And so I challenge America to learn to love one another as Christ did on the cross for each one of us. And that speak your differences. It's okay. We are in a country of freedom. And really, that's what's important, is to embrace the diversity that we have here, because that's what made America great in the first place. And we need to carry on that legacy of protecting our freedom of speech on campuses and in our workplaces. People at work should not be afraid to express their beliefs. It's our right, it's our freedom. Thank you.
So interesting how she got emotional in the middle of that. I mean, I think that's something to duly note as well. He chose the right person to stand up, to make a point, you know. What do you guys think about, like, let's just give our comments, because I know we wrote this in our paper, but about how this executive order, like the whole purpose of it, and him choosing these particular three, like, I know we've said that there's sort of a spin on, it looks like it's a bit one-sided just by the people he chose.
Yeah. So there are three. There's obviously the woman with the Valentines that says Jesus love you. There was another girl who put crosses around campus, each one representing an abortion, basically. And then I don't remember the third one. Which one is that one?
That was the girl that basically was just getting bullied. She's the one
Was
that
it like a right to life or something? It was some. I believe it was a
Oh,
right organization or something.
what could have been Turning Point? I think I know
Yeah, that was
Turning.
it.
Yeah, it was Turning Point had been moved. Yeah. Okay, and so these are clearly very like right of center views, and I think, and why I said at the beginning that he did a good job, and then it sort of goes off the rails, is the speech is supposed to be, it solves a problem, recognizing who needs help, why, and all this stuff, and he does that. But the speech at the beginning and kind of throughout is a speech of unity and a speech of like protecting the rights of everyone. Yet through the ways in which he speaks, and through the presenters that he provides, you see that he's very clearly trying to, if not only help this group, at least exclusively appeal to this group.
right.
There are a couple of just jabs that he throws in throughout the speech that are clearly meant to sort of just get laughs out of the room that clearly agree with what he's saying.
But I think everybody in the room is in agreement with him. Like,
yeah.
This isn't, this is clearly an audience that they've been handpicked to be in the room.
And that's typically how it goes with like the signing statements or whatnot. They include people that they know agree with them and can bolster, the show of support. They wouldn't have, if they're signing a bipartisan bill, they wouldn't have some, people antagonizing them in the room, while they're doing that, because it's supposed to be symbolic of the unity or of the accomplishment of, signing it. So, and I think, we talk about in our paper, if we were going to label this speech under any other name, we sort of fell on the name of like a peaceful presidential passive aggressive protest, in the sense that he makes a statement, but he's very abrasive as he does it. He is favoring one side of the room, and he is sort of taking a stand for what he believes, is important, and for what he believes his constituents think are important as well, while making sure to make a point to any who oppose him that, hey, if you don't fall in line with this, you will be punished in a way.
Let's show that. Let's show what he's about to say, this next little piece, because it feeds right into what you're just talking about, when he risks of losing their funding.
It's educational institutions with more than $35 billion in research funding. All of that money is now at stake. That's a lot of money. They are going to not have to like your views a lot, right? We will not stand idly by and allow public institutions to violate their students' constitutional rights. If a college or university doesn't allow you to speak, we will not give them money. It's very simple.
So, on that note, that's exactly what you said about the peaceful presidential passive aggressive protesting. That's perfect in line with what I think we said in our paper, with what he just said.
And I also think that sounds like inherently, aggressive or targeted, but he makes a point throughout the speech to mention that this is a unifying bill, that this is meant to help everyone, that this is not meant to be a specific, like for the people that agree with me style bill. And so it is either a bill that he intends to be one-sided, but that he is covering his tracks by claiming that it isn't, or it is a bill that covers like everyone, or at least is intended to, but that he is appealing to his audience because he believes that they will appreciate it more if he doesn't make this general, which I've always found to be interesting, because he always appeals to his side whenever he passes something, and that always makes it appear like it's one-sided, even if it isn't inherently. And I can't see anything in this bill that's inherently one-sided, unless you have a perception that people who have like right-leaning views are more likely to have their views shouted down. But I can't speak, obviously, to his intentions. It just appears like he is being dishonest when he's calling for unity.
And something to note as well, this was given in 2019, which is leading up to 2020, the election year. So by doing this, he appeals to students who may be potential voting base for him in the future as well. So that's something to note as well.
We were going to mention that the order is freedom of speech, but Trump also makes it very clear that, and it is in the order, that they are going to do something about student loans. It's very vague, I think. And so let's just hear what he has to say, and then we can comment on it.
Today's order also directs the Department of Education to propose a plan that will require colleges and universities to have skin in the game by sharing a portion of the financial risk of the student loan debt. I believe that colleges and universities, their costs have gone up more than anything I can think of. I've watched this, and you watch companies and they'll keep it the same for years and years, and you watch these colleges and universities, certain institutions where it just goes right through the roof. And the reason, there's no incentive for them to watch costs. You see people at the heads of the institutions being paid a fortune. They don't care because the government loans the student the money. They pay the money to the college, and then the student graduates from college, maybe a very good college, but they graduate, or university, and they're stuck with $200,000 in loans that they won't be able to pay off for a long time. So we're going to make them have an incentive to keep their costs down. Right now, they have no incentive whatsoever. I watched this over a period of time. I figured it out very, very quickly. I'm good at that stuff, believe me. And I just see their numbers go up so rapidly because they just don't have the burden on them. And we're going to put burden on the institutions. We want them to get the best peaches, and the professors and the administrators and the heads, but the numbers are out of reality, and certainly they make it out of reality for students when you have to pay back those loans someday. With today's action and every action to come, the Trump administration will fight for America's students. We're fighting very hard. And remember what I said, we're going to give the student loans where you have way, way over $1 trillion in student loans. We're going to start looking at that very seriously and help some of those students that are just mired in debt. We know that freedom must prevail on college campuses. That freedom is to prosper in America. It's so important. And we believe that greatness must be practiced in our halls of learning. If greatness is to thrive in our halls of government and our corridors of commerce, you're going to have great lives. But I want you to get off to a great start, not a start where you're behind a barricade that just doesn't let you succeed. And we're going to make it much easier for you, this administration. And we've worked very hard on it already. We'll be having some meetings, and we'll be having some very major discussions with some of the biggest colleges and universities. And we're going to have them shoulder some of the responsibility and some of the money that's necessary for you to use in order to get your education.
I think this is so interesting because it parallels exactly with the order, which is, it doesn't ever say specifically how. And he says this when he's speaking too. I mean, they address the loan piece and that it's over the top, but I mean, when we're talking about the statement prior to, this is a signing statement, this parallels exactly to and when I'm reading the order, it's the same thing. It's like, well, what are they going to do? We're going to do a lot about it, but I keep waiting for him to say by.
Well, so he explains sort of that what he did was he directed, I think it was the Department of Education, to look into a potential plan that would allow for colleges to be held responsible should they give out loans that basically are bad investments. There's a lot of weird implications with that. I'm thinking like sort of like a home loan where like people would have to like go to a bank or an institution and defend why they deserve to get a loan.
Yeah.
But going back to like the speech, Trump does this a lot in speeches where he either has a plan and he's not telling you what it is, or they're always working on a plan.
Yeah.
And he does this in a lot of his speeches, and it's weirdly successful because there's a lot of people who don't care enough about politics to look into what you're doing, but care enough to pay attention to what you're saying. And as long as he keeps saying that he has plans for X, Y, Z, people will assume that that's being worked on.
Right, and they're not going to dig into the how.
Yeah, well, and also there's always the excuse that these things take time.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this instance, that sort of like take on this issue, which is an issue, the pricing of colleges is important and things that a lot of people care about. For people who aren't paying that much attention, it does a good job of keeping them happy. And without trying to insult too much of what I believe to be Trump's voters base, a lot of those people just aren't paying that much attention. And so when he does things like this, it works for them.
Mm-hmm.
He is, again, appealing to his base.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting, like you said, I mean, with this being March 2019, he's thinking forward. He's thinking to the vote, so. Well, do we have anything else that we want to say before we wrap up?
I was just gonna to sort of like further tie in the book to this,
right. Yeah, good.
just the general concept of what he's doing and why. The book describes the president's power to sort of use or to at his discretion do something that he believes either is constitutional or stop something that he believes is unconstitutional. Obviously, this executive order is using that power to stop what he believes is an unconstitutional restriction of freedom of speech. It is also weirdly a lot like John Tyler. They give an example with John Tyler where he sort of Congress passes a law and he could either veto it or sign it. And he signed it, but then he also wrote a letter criticizing the bill,
Right.
which hadn't been done at the time. At least that's how the book seems to describe it. And so he set a weird precedent where he let something pass, but criticized it. And Trump doesn't, not obviously that specific instance, but Trump does a lot of, he doesn't have direct power to do something. He will go out of his way to make sure you know where he stands on it.
Yeah.
And I think you see a lot of that in this speech.
In a way, it's similar to like a dissenting opinion in like a court case, like you have the majority and then you have like, the dissenting opinion that is released as well to sort of, show the other side or another person's view on the same topic.
Yeah.
Well, good job, you guys.